This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Is everybody? Bryan, you there?
Bryan, you there?
Mic check 1 2. Looks like Bryan is frozen there for a hot second. So hello and welcome to another edition of the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan Fulford, AD Drew, special guest Michael Washington from Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dr. Cavil should be joining us in a few moments. I see you moving there, Bryan. Can I get a sound check?
Everything was working fine, and then stuff just happened. So gotta love the internet.
The bots have been out on us today. We only an hour and a half late getting this show on, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. It must be this Georgia weather, these Georgia telecommunication lines out here that I'm working with.
They not used to 30-degree weather, man.
Hey, I'm telling you, Epcot or whatever we had in Texas, that stuff's rubbing off on you guys.
Yeah.
Hey, I will say this. I don't know about anything else, but this was the coldest Celebration Bowl that I've ever been to.
I thought it was colder a couple years. I didn't go, but I thought it was colder a couple years ago.
No, it was wet, but it wasn't the Hawk went out like it was this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. It was the one a couple years ago was cold and wet.
Yeah. Well,
this one
just cold for no reason.
Oh, there's a reason. I saw the weather reports when they talk about a Christmas holiday freeze mix, and they said it's gonna feel like -6 degrees. I'm like, what? I'm like, man, I came up here. Let me take my butt back to Florida anyway. So it's I brought the thought I'd bring some good weather up here to Atlanta, but I was wrong. But anyway, Celebration Bowl 7 is in the books, fellas, and what I like over the last 48 hours is taking a look at all the headlines and everyone's analysis and views. And let's start by first off saying a champion was crowned. It's not, I know sometimes the sexier story is in the loser locker room, but for a game like this, a champion was crowned. The number 1 and number 2 team in everybody's poll. No debates. Mike, did you see anybody that didn't have Central or Jackson State in their poll, 1 or 2?
Not nope. Now one. Nope.
Drew?
Nobody.
Drew, did you see any? Yeah. So
Wait a minute.
this is
Question, Brian. Here's the better question. Who else out there was even deserving to be in one of those two slots besides those two teams?
well, that's a very good point. That too is another
MEAC
good point.
MEAC co-champion Howard.
Stop it. See, let's not do
SWAC
that.
runner-up Southern.
Stop it.
Stop it, Drew.
SWAC
Don't do that.
East runner-up FAMU. I mean, who else is out there, man?
Well, right. And, I think this is one of the few years, even the teams that aren't a part of the SWAC and MEAC didn't have the kind of seasons that they could even, that people will sometimes throw a flag and say, oh, well, we're not a part of it. So no. This is the undisputed Black College
Big
National
South
Champion.
A&T. That's who it was. Big South A&T.
The North.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, the undisputed
Yeah.
Black College National Champion will go down as the North Carolina Central University Eagles, hands down. The winners by their performance throughout really this game, but all season. All season, they have played and lived up to. I mean, let's not forget, at one point they too were unbeaten, right? They were running what was it, like 6 or 7 games in a row before they ran into Campbell.
Yep.
Yeah, so it just kind of worked out. Mike, what as you think about the big headline, what's your big headline from Saturday's game?
Man, I don't know whether I want to go with another SWAC loss in the Celebration Bowl.
Ooh.
I don't know if I want to go with that headline. I don't know if I want to go with another headline of, is it physicality or just the way MEAC team play Celebration Bowl? I don't know if I want to go with, is it finesse or wait? There's 40 different ways past Sunday you could go with this. I looked at previous Celebration Bowls. I looked at numbers. I looked at stats. I looked at teams that run the ball better. I mean, you could take this anywhere you go, but I want to take it on the side, if you'll allow me to. I had a chance at halftime to leave the press box and go out into the stands and see part of that 49,600 and some change folks. What I liked and what I want to take away as a positive is the plethora of folks from different HBCUs present and having a good time. I mean, the ambience, it's reached a plateau. I saw so many people from Hampton, from Howard, from that little school down in Tallahassee. I refuse to say the name. Other schools.
All right,
I saw
Joshua.
so many folks. I saw so many folks out there. I think that's one of the ancillary sidelines that can be understated. Other than the game, inside the game, X's and O's stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point. This was my first Celebration Bowl, so I proudly wore my FAMU cap to the game, and just in case anybody asked me, I was gonna say, hey, I'm part of the 2023 scouting committee, just in case anybody was asking me. But it was good to see, like you said. I saw people Winston-Salem State, Tuskegee gear, other university, A&T. I saw A&T folks congratulating Central folk. I'm like, what world am I living in? But it was a beautiful thing, and I'm happy that this game was my first Celebration Bowl appearance. You know what I'm saying? Drew, what's your headline? What's your big headline?
And I'm kind of like Mike. There's so many storylines that you can go with, but I think the totality of everything, this game had everything that you want in a football game, and you're going to be hard pressed if BS to get a bowl game this good. Let's back it up. You've got the intrigue of Coach Bryan making his decision that he was leading. That led up to those 2 weeks. How many players will be staying and leaving after the Celebration Bowl? Then you had the perceived disrespect by Central from Jackson State. You've got this underdog in this little conference that people say is barely holding on because they barely got 6 teams, and your co-champion of that league was under 500. Then you find out about the drama about the pregame warm-ups and the press conferences and all that stuff. Then you've got the underdog who goes up 10-0 over the favorite. So then you got the favorite who makes a run and takes the lead by the halftime. And then you got the second half where I think there were only 2 possessions in the second half where neither team scored. Oh, did I tell you about the overtime, Bryan? Did I tell you about the overtime? That was overtime, Bryan.
Wow.
So this game had
first time ever.
This game had everything that you ever wanted. I believe it was 7 lead changes.
Yes.
In that particular game?
By my count.
Yes.
And then there were 7 lead changes and 2 ties, if I have the number right. I may be off on the ties, but 7 lead changes, and we know at least 1 tie because they were tied at the end of the game.
Right.
So I think that was the only tie. Was the one at the end of the game. So this game had everything that you wanted, and the overtime came down to a 4th down play. So what more can you ask for? Yeah, what more can you ask for in a football game? I guarantee you, this will be the best bowl game of the bowl season. FBS, FCS, hard match. It's gonna be hard for the FCS to live up to this one.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be hard. This will be a hard act to follow.
I one of the talking points that I purposely kind of stayed away from all of the pre-stuff, because I had kind of soaked myself up in all of the Deion leaving to Colorado in that 1 week that honestly I was tired. I didn't really want to devote any more attention to whether he should stay, should go, why is he there, why isn't he there. I divorced myself from all that. And I really missed out on all of the extra that some of you were pointing out in the disrespect card. And I really just coming in, I just wanted to see the game. I just wanted to focus on the game. And so it's like now that all that stuff is coming out, and it's just like, we can talk about the game, and then we can talk about all the juicy stuff outside of the game. So let's do this. Let's talk. And I thought we'll go to maybe talking about what was your moment of the game. Now, I mean, that's hard to sell. I get, because there are so many things that, I mean, Drew pointed out some. I mean, there are several others, but when you talk about a moment of the game that you kind of think back on, what's your moment of the game, Mike? Maybe we'll go like moment 1 that way, just in case you take some. If you got like 2 or 3, so go with like your first round draft pick, moment of the game. We'll go around the horn. First round draft pick, your first moment of the game, and then we'll come back around for a round 2.
Oh my God, you asking a lot, man. So I think it was in the second quarter. You asking a lot, man. I think the first one that stands out to me is, let me first say, Shedeur had some passes on the rope. If he wanted to build a film for some of the scouts in the future, NFL scouts in the future, he had a lot of pressure, but he had some passes on the rope.
And they got us again.
Well, we'll give it a second because hopefully it'll jump back in. I just saw a couple of people. Oh, go ahead, Mike. Reset. You were talking about Shedeur throwing some ropes.
Yeah, throwing some rope for a touchdown. So he had a pass up the middle for 24 yards to Stevens, and then he had a pass for 85 yards to Coleman, and he caught the ball at 45 and went all the way down. So I thought that was a big play. It was a big momentum builder because this game had so many momentum shifts. I thought that long play by Shedeur, that pass, I thought that was a big momentum swing. At least the first one. There are so many, but that was one of the first that stands out immediately right now.
And that was the third play of a drive that started on their own 4. I mean, they're down 10-7. They're that was third down, and no, maybe it was first down. It was first down actually.
It was
but
first and 10
they were
on the
first.
Actually, it was on
Yeah, because they did 96 because it was a 96 play drive. They had got they started on the 4. Let's see, plus 11. That would have put it at about the 15-yard line. Yep. And so first and 10 on the 15, and it really kind of caught me by surprise. I didn't even think I was looking for it. Then all of a sudden I looked up and said, "Oh, wait a minute, my God, there's nobody out there. He's gone." That gave Jackson State their first lead, and it was almost like you kind of got nervous for a second, or at least that was the moment when I felt like Jackson State woke up. Like the crowd woke up, everybody was like, "Woo, okay, here we go, we're ready, let's go." Amazing throw, catch.
And then the momentum pendulum went like this. I mean, back to Jackson State side with that play right there. So that was one play that stood out to me.
All right, that's your first round pick. Drew, what's your first round pick?
I've got a player, and I don't know which one I really want to make by first round. So can I just call the player out and talk about 2 specific plays this player made? Would that be within the rules?
Yeah. Okay, 1 player, 2 plays. There you go. All right.
Latrell Collier. First,
boom. I think I know where you're going.
The stiff arm. The stiff arm. The Derrick Henry stiff arm. That was one of the plays of the game for me. At a crucial time, I believe was that in overtime, if I got that correct. And they wound up down. I think he wound up getting down to about the 4-yard line with that stiff arm. And he probably picked up another 5 to 7 yards after he made the contact.
Yes.
Between that one and the other Latrell Collier run, where he carried, looked like all 11 Tigers for about 20 yards. When they were trying, and they just could not get him down. I believe that was in the third quarter when that play occurred. So those 2 plays by Latrell Collier were my number 1 highlight, and it's really hard to distinguish one from the other because you had a one-on-one play with the stiff arm, but damn, he I know he had at least 9 Tigers trying to pull him down at that point in time, and the other two were like, "Nah, I don't even want none of that action, my brother," because I remember it was the 2 safety, it was Shadur and the other safety were there in the play, and they made the first contact, and they was like, "Man, get off me, little bro." Anyway, those are mine.
And what was it? Wasn't there? We heard a little backstory post game about that Collier was looking for number 7 of Jackson State. I'm not gonna put the man's name out there. His number is gonna live in infamy as it is. So I'm not gonna put the young man's name out there. But he was looking for number 7 because I guess there were some words that he felt like 7 was one of the most talkative guys, and he was looking for 7. And when he saw him, he mushed him not only once, but I think he mushed him again in overtime. And I mean, that stiff arm, that's one of those moments in the game that I think you'll go back and remember. That's a great first pick.
You can't put out the hardest hits videos like we grew up watching in the 80s when the NFL used to put out those hardest hits videos. But you could doggo show put that one out because that was on that level.
Yeah, that was that stiff arm. Yeah, that's that old school stiff arm.
Yeah.
So,
can I say one thing? Can I say one thing about that?
Sure,
it's ironic that a Jackson State player was stiff arm like that when probably the greatest stiff arm player in history played for Jackson State, being Walter Payton.
Yeah.
Look at you. Look at you
That,
tying it together.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Look at you, Drew. I never thought about that. You didn't had some days to think about
It
that one.
just
That's
it
nice.
just hit me 15 seconds ago. I had to get it out before I forgot about it.
For me, I will go with Shador fourth and what was it? Maybe 19 with final play of regulation. Final play of regulation, because I mean, we've great quarterbacks make great plays, and I hope Shador has more moments at Colorado, or and in his future, and we'll go back and look at what he did at that moment, and you'll go back and say, wow, he's been a big time playmaker for a long time. And then they show that clip, because just the being able to make that throw, give credit to Travis Hunter for making the catch. But just the nails to be able to convert the game, well, at least to get yourself within one. I mean, the PAT needed to tie the game. And who knows, that actually might be the pseudo play that everyone needs to be thinking about the guy, the kicker, to be able to kick that extra point, because we saw an extra point get missed. I mean, as short as they are, an extra point was missed. And it's funny, because had it not been missed, Jackson State would have had to go for 2 at the end of the game, which would have just added more drama. But anyway,
actually, Brian, they would have only had to go for 1, because you got to think about it. The only reason Central went for 2 was because they missed the extra point earlier in the game. So they may have only needed that PAT.
Extra point.
Yeah, they may have only needed that PAT to win the game.
Right. So yeah, I just thought, great catch. I mean, you could. I'm wondering, if you're the DB for Central, if you're thinking, man, I should have just held and just fouled the heck out of Travis. I'm holding on. There's no way. Worst case, it's 15 yards, and they get the ball at the 4-yard line. There's no way I'm letting him.
Actually, it would have been at the 10, because it's half the distance and the untimed down.
No, it was at the 9. I thought it was 19. Yeah. The ball was
right,
at
the
but it
half the distance. It's not a 15 yards, because it's inside
half the distance to the goal.
It would have been half the distance at that point.
Well, that's even better. That's even better, right? Because of that would have even been further away from the goal line. So either way,
9.5.
Exactly. Yeah. Either way, someone has got it, and they were coming out of the timeout, and I just wonder, was a coach in that, one of the DB coaches, like, hey, if he gets away from you, grab his arms. Don't let anybody get their arms up. I'm just wondering if that if that was something that was talked about. Okay, so good run on the first round. I know coming up, I know we're talking and trying to work in BJ Jones as well as Dr. Cavil. Let's go around second round, because there are plenty of moments. Round two, Mike. If one of these 2 moments that myself or Drew didn't have, that was one of yours, what's another memorable moment that stood out from that game?
So what I will go. There's so many.
Oh, we got BJ joining us. Okay.
We'll let him get in round 2.
Okay. Yeah, you gonna let him get in, or you want me to go ahead?
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. Let's get BJ in there. BJ. So, we were just kind of going around the horn here, talking about our memorable moment, and kind of doing it in a draft style. 1 to 3, or now we got 4. So you get to be the end of round 1 here for a memorable moment. Mike, just quickly recap what yours was.
Oh, mine was the 85-yarder I believe it was on the 15. It was first and 10 on the JSU 15. Shador pass long to Coleman, and the rest was
Kevin
history.
Coleman.
The band was playing
Right.
after that.
Yeah, the band woke up. Drew, what was your number one was?
Latrell Collier, and I had to split hairs with this one. One was the stiff arm that Latrell Collier had in overtime, and the other was the one where he carried about 9 or 10 Jackson State Tigers for about 20 yards there in the third quarter. So I kind of had to split hairs. I couldn't really pick one or the other.
And mine, BJ, was the final play of regulation, Shador to Travis Hunter, that put Jackson State within one, obviously needing the PAT to tie the game and send it overtime. So if we go to you and say, of all the memorable moments, what memorable moment stood out for you as you think back on the Celebration Bowl?
There was a play in the second quarter because Central was coming back towards the North Carolina Central end zone where Davius Richard threw a pass on the money to 22, hit him square in the hands, and he drops it. If he catches that pass, Central goes up 17-7, and I think they completely blow the game open. I think it looks completely different at that point.
Interesting point. I'll start since you're coming in. We'll kind of go in snake order here, and I'll kind of give you the opportunity to go start off round two with still memorable, lots of stuff still out there on the board, and I'll give you a second memorable moment to add.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go with the reverse pass for the 2 point conversion.
The
That
Philly
that
special.
one was, yeah, man, that one was nice. So that's my number two.
I had forgotten all about that. I'm glad you brought that up. I had completely forgotten all about that play. That was in what, the fourth quarter, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep, it was the fourth quarter.
My gosh. All right, Mike. Let's come back to you here. We'll go to you, Mike. Next pick.
Yeah, he took mine with the Philly special, but there was another play. I think it was third and 18. I don't know if anybody said this. It was on third quarter, and Shador had a pass up the middle for 18 yards to Hunter. You may think, okay, third 18, pass 18, that should be piece of cake. But from where I was sitting, he threw that ball on a rope. And I just think you started to see Shador at least try to gain a lot more confidence. But that was a pass where he was really building his confidence despite all the pressure that he was getting from that central defense. He threw that thing on a rope, beeline to Hunter. Give Hunter credit for catching it, but 18 yards. I think he had to dodge a few defenders, but he threw that 18-yard thing on a rope.
That's a good one. Good one. Drew, what about you? Round two.
And I'm trying to find the specific play that I am talking about. There was a fourth down play. Yeah, I believe it was 4th and 7. That same drive that you're talking about, where Jackson State put themselves in a position to tie the ball game. There was a fourth down earlier in that drive, and I'm looking at it. It was 4th and 7 from the Central 41, and Shador initially didn't have anyone open, and he scrambled around back there, Patrick Mahomes style, until he was
Yep.
able to find an open receiver, that being J.D. Barton, for a 10-yard completion to extend the drive. Because without that, Bryan, there is no Travis Hunter catch with no time on the clock. That was probably more important than the touchdown catch.
See, this is the beauty when we go back and talk about the instant classic that is this game. We haven't even touched on probably two of the biggest plays that are probably out there still on the board, and that just goes to show that there are so many things that happened in this ball game, stuff that you guys just brought up, that now I want to go back. I may have to wake up while I'm eating my bowl of cereal in the morning and go back and watch the game just so I can go back and listen to some of this stuff and relive the stuff that I've forgotten or just that doesn't stick out. So when I talk about the 2 plays left on the board, I'm gonna go with the fake punt. Central's Kyle
Yep.
Morgan with the 43-yard fake punt. Now, this was on their opening possession of the third quarter, so obviously Jackson State is up 21-17. Jackson State has the ball to start the half. They end up going 3 and out, I believe. So Central has the ball. And, we talk about, Central actually nearly playing a perfect second half. They scored every time they had the ball. Every time they possessed the ball, they scored. And I thought Kyle Morgan from it was a 43-yard run from their own territory all the way to the Jackson State 23-yard line. North Carolina Central ended up scoring, retaking the lead in the third quarter, and then it was like, okay, we're good. I just thought the timing of that was huge. You guys, I'm trying to recall, have we seen other fake punts in the Celebration Bowl, or was that the biggest fake punt thus far?
I would say it'd be the
A&T
biggest.
had a clean one. Oh, A&T had a clean one against Grambling. Oh, yes, sir. Clean.
Yes.
Okay. So there have been some other impactful ones. But yeah, as it relates to this game, I just thought in terms of keeping that momentum, and it just goes to show how well coached Central was. Usually when those kind of plays happen, the special team coach or Coach Oliver or somebody has already told the punter and the punt team, because it takes a whole team. They probably tell them, hey, we're looking for a certain look. And if you see that look, you're free to go with it. And whatever the look was, they must have saw it, because I thought my man was going to run all the way to the end zone. As far as he ran, 43 yards, I mean, that's like almost half a field, folks. So he had plenty of room, plenty of daylight. Great play. So let me add this. So I'll just put this out in general. The one play we haven't talked about was the drop. The Jackie, who was it? The Jackie Slater, the Jackie Smith moment.
Jackie Smith for the Cowboys.
That's for us old heads. Now, see, a lot of young folks are like, who? Yeah, I'll never forget my dad telling me stories about Jackie Smith and why the Cowboys didn't have more Super Bowls in the 70s than the Steelers. And he always pointed it to that game right there. But yeah, the Jackie Smith moment happened in the Celebration Bowl. Young man from Jackson State, the tight end. You guys know his name. It's out there. I'll just say his number, 84. Dropped the ball that just hit him dead in the hands. What are your guys' thoughts on just that play, that moment, and even some of the post-game reaction to that moment?
Well, I started off. We always make this joke about the worst place to hit a receiver with a ball is in the hands, and we always joke about that. Now, for that player, you throw that ball to him 100 times, he's going to catch 99 of them. Unfortunately for him, he did not catch it in a crucial moment. If that's the first quarter, no one even looks at that particular play. If they're playing Mississippi Valley, no one cares about that play. It just happened to be on national TV in front of almost 50,000 people when this particular play happened. And anybody who has played or coached ball has had that situation happen. Hell, I remember, I know as a coach, recently as a couple of years ago, I knew I was out of timeouts. with 16 seconds left of the ball game. But did I walk over to the referee, yell a timeout, try to save a possession? Yes, I did. Cost me two shots and possession. And when I got over to the huddle, after I looked at my kids' eyes, I was like, I don't won y'all many games. Y'all gonna have to win this one for me because I just effed up. Y'all gonna have to get me up out of this one. And that's what you saw a lot of his teammates doing, trying to get him up out of it, because that could have happened to any of us at any point in time if you've ever played competitive sports. For all the BS and garbage that I've been seeing, the negative BS and garbage that I've been seeing on social media about this young man, it's not good. And we saw one meme. It was funny as hell. We was all at dinner when we saw that one meme. It was funny, but it was not appropriate. It was fun, and I'm gonna pass it on. I'm gonna pass it on just to say, because I know you guys have similar strong feelings as I do. But I hope our fandom hasn't turned into pseudo racism, because some of the stuff I'm seeing is about the white kid playing at the HBCU, not doing it. Because we not only are we our own worst critics, but we the last people who need to be criticizing people of another race. And I think that's what disappointed me more than anything. Yeah, we can have a little fun about him dropping the ball and everything. That's what we're supposed to do with fans. But let's not get ignorant with it, and let's damn sure not get racist with it.
That's a great point. Great point, Drew. Let's see. BJ, go ahead. Jump in there. Your thoughts. And then we'll go to Mike.
Man, my heart goes out to that young man. I've been trying to reach out to him via social media. I've never been in a situation like that personally, but I had a roommate that fumbled the ball. That gave Jackson State an opportunity to score when we were at Southern. They gave Jackson State the opportunity to score to push that game to overtime, and we eventually lost in double overtime. And so I know what that feels like, to have one of your friends to go through that. It's tough, and I think that a lot of people online make it. Athletes make this thing look easy, but it's not an easy thing. And at the end of the day, I know that we have ABC and there's 50,000 people in the dome, but that's a child. You know what I mean? That's a child. That's a 18 to 22-year-old kid, just like your 18 to 22-year-old nephew. And he has 18 to 22-year-old stuff going on, and his mom jumped online and kind of talked about the struggles that the family has had, and just different things going on. And at some point, man, it's a ball game. It's not life or death. It's not. It's a ball game, and I think that people really need to check themselves at the door. And one of the things I always say, Bryan, is that we like to think that we're different than our Confederate Conference counterparts. And I always tell people, no, we're not. We're the exact same. The same thing that we accuse them of doing, we do. We just find ways to excuse it. So, man, if you're out there and you're going after a kid because of what happens during the ball game, shame on you. Shame on you.
Man, that's sad. I wish I could say I'm surprised. I did not know there were death threats. I'm not surprised. Sadly, I'm not surprised, but that is definitely sad to hear. Mike, your thoughts, and then we'll go to a break after your thoughts.
Yeah, just kind of reiterating. Mental health is real, and you don't know what anybody's child is going through. For those that played sports, that sometimes these plays happen 100 miles per hour. And yeah, he may have dropped the pass, but no one is hurt more than that young man. And he's 19, 20, 21-year-old kid. You don't know that his brother committed suicide. Basically, had suffered from depression. You don't know that his uncle, some in his mom's family, that depression run rampant. He had 2 members of his family commit suicide. So now this young man is on watch, and now we follow it up with death threats. and all kinds of nonsense. That's not a good look at all. And I think we're better than that. This is a game at the end of the day. We're passionate about it, but at the end of the day, this is a game. And this is somebody's child, somebody's nephew, whatever, that now you're playing with life. And it's big. This is so much bigger than the game. So
Wow. It makes you again think about all the things that we talk about and espouse about why HBCUs, and this is our opportunity as a fan base, as a culture, to keep this family, this young man, in our prayers. To wrap Jackson State community, wrap your arms around this kid, because this is what we talk about. Hey, this is why we tell people to choose an HBCU, right? For moments
yep.
like this. So regardless of that young man's ethnicity, hey, he represents Jackson State. He represents HBCUs. It's a game. End of the day, it's a game. You know, shame on you if you were betting money on Jackson State. We tried to tell you anyway. But you know that's regardless. Wrap your arms around this young man, and the only reason I know Chuck Hunt, I appreciate you. I didn't say his name because you know his name. It's out there. I wasn't gonna put it out there. We know the number, and unfortunately, that let it be that. And if you want to go look up, if you want to support this family, this young man, there's ways I'm sure that will be coming out to allow people to do that. Let's take a break, come back, and let's break down and talk about probably the most epic quarterback battle we have seen in a championship game since ... We'll find out on the other side of this break. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap and Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab review of the 2022 Celebration Bowl.
I know that Fred is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants, we work to blend teas with exotic spices and fruits to produce scrumptious and wholesome beverages. So check us out at mymajesties.com. That's MyMajesties.com. My Majesties, an Urban Passport member.
We are making the virtual HBCU experience available wherever you live through Stillman Online. We offer online degrees in business, criminal justice, psychology, and religion. Stillman also offers technology badges in cybersecurity and data analytics. You can participate in all student activities, fraternities and sororities, internships, graduation ceremonies, and much more. Apply for admission today at stillman.edu. Stillman College, where we prepare you for a different world.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN's mix of the Sports Wrap and Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Bryan, Fulford, 80 Drew, Mike Washington, BJ Jones will be back here in a second. Don't forget, Dr. Cavil and the professors will be back tomorrow, Tuesday evening, 7 Central, 6 Eastern. And then, so I'm sure there'll be way more conversation in depth that'll be discussed on that time. Hopefully, like I said, we all are good friends and associates with CB, and so I know we'll be looking to hear his comments and the other background stuff. I know he's probably very proud of his program winning a SWAC championship, but it's got to be a tough one. Have you talked to CB lately, Mike? What are his thoughts? How's he feeling? How's he doing over the last 48 hours?
Yeah, I think he's still processing it. With family and friends. It's been a journey. It's about the journey. They do have results, and unfortunately, change is coming. But I think he's still processing it a little bit. I think he'll be back. I think he has nothing but accolades for what this coaching staff, or the previous one in place for the last, couple of years. He's followed it closer than anybody I know. He and Neely with Di Love. So he's had a chance to see it inside out. And from the stuff that he's conveyed about the job that this coaching staff has done and turned this program 180. He has nothing but thoughts. It ended the game ended up as it was, but nothing but thoughts. Process it. Wish for a more happy ending, as some of us all did. If you were wishing for a SWAC team to finally win this dang thing, but he's doing well, still processing it. Has lots of facts and stuff, some insights that I'd like him to share with everybody as well.
Right. So that's tomorrow night, 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Of course, North Carolina Central winning the title is the 6th MEAC school in the past 7 years of the Celebration Bowl. The trophy has not come out of the Carolinas, except for a brief moment in time. It's been North Carolina, South Carolina. I mean, it just can't come out of the Carolinas at all. They've got a stranglehold on it. But I thought we quickly, Mike, before, and I know you got some obligations. We saw an epic quarterback matchup. Davius Richard, Shedeur Sanders. Obviously, they lived up to the hype as the offensive players of the year in their conference. Mike, you've been watching SWAC football. You've been watching Celebration. You've been watching HBCU football for years. Where does this matchup between Richard and Sanders, where does this equate in terms of quarterback matchups in a big game, as big as this was? Where does this compare into some other games that you've seen?
Man, I went, as you know, I went to PV, and we had a chance to see McNair play. And in terms of his scrambling ability, his body frame, his ability to absorb hits, still find the open man. There would be some games he'd lead in rushing, some he'd be spread the ball out. I'm trying to think of a good quarterback that was equivalent at the time to Shedeur, because it was kind of like his style against, kind of a lesser version of Steve McNair's. But if I look at him, prototype body wise, he's a prototypical quarterback who can run and pass both effectively. And Shedeur is the typical pocket passer who is very good at avoiding the rush. He had a rush in his face all night, but those two compared to each other, and you just saw Davis Richard over the course of they would answer for him. He could have ran the ball literally first, second, third down, and there was no answer for stopping him. They had a spy, and I guess to me, Jackson State had problem with one-on-one tackles. With Davis Richard, especially, even though they had a spot, there's a couple of missed tackles. He prototypical quarterback, running back style, but he still had the arm when it counted. I can, with his style, I can go back to maybe a McNair.
Wow, that's heavy. That's heavy right there. BJ, I love always hearing your breakdowns. From the X's and O's as a former defensive standout at Southern, obviously as a coach. How do you, when you look at this, this matchup between Richard and Sanders? I mean, talk a little bit about it. What did we see? What do we need to really come away appreciating so that we can go back and watch this thing 2 to 3 more times over the holiday break? I mean, hey, look, this is one of those games. Tell me if I'm wrong, guys. Don't you want to gather up the family on one of these holiday weekends and be like, hey, y'all need to come watch this. Come watch this Celebration Bowl these two HBCU schools and watch how great this game is. And hopefully some of this stuff we're giving you, you can share with family, and so that way you look like the smartest guy in the room when you're breaking down things. But BJ, talk a little bit about what we saw on Saturday.
Oh man, you saw two quarterbacks that were as good as advertised. Josh has been talking about Davis Richard all year. I knew the type of athlete that he was, type of quarterback that he was, and Shador Sanders probably played his best game. I mean, if we're being honest with you, but there was a key, and I talked to some guys from Central. I got a chance to talk to some people on that staff on Friday. They saw some things in that second half. Well, not really the second half, from the second quarter on against Southern, that really had them licking their chops. And the one thing about Jackson State, when you play the type of defense they play, where they're going to blitz a lot, you're going to see that trail technique with the defensive backs. If you have a quarterback that can make throws, it makes that defense look completely different. And one thing that Jackson State hadn't had to play, I mean, Jackson State hadn't played all year until that second half. I mean, until Southern made the QB change, was a quarterback that had the ability to run, but also had the ability to fit the ball into tight spaces and make those throws. Davis Richard had the ability to do both, and they knew that coming in. They knew that he was going to be trouble, but because of his ability to be able to do so. So he caused some headaches for that defense that we're not accustomed to seeing Jackson State have. But this quarterback battle, we're going to be talking about this one like we talked about McNair against Kendrick North of Grambling State University. We're going to talk about this like Darnell Kennedy and Robert Kent. We're going to talk about this like we're going to talk about some of those legendary quarterback battles that we've seen in black college football.
Yeah, I couldn't think of the name. I couldn't think of the name. I appreciate it. I know that McNair had some battles. I had a chance to see him when I played my little semester at PV, but I couldn't remember the names of the battles that McNair had against the prototypical quarterback. So
is that and Drew? Let me come to you. Before I come to you, is that I hear we kind of look at Richard as sort of that. Because of his frame and what they do at Central, do we look at him as sort of that read option, bigger running? I mean, he ran for 98 yards in this game, threw for 170. Shador on the other side throws for, what was it, 349? Did he hit 349? And 4 touchdowns. So he kind of fits up, Do we look at them in that little prism, or are these two guys who really are bigger than that prism of passing pocket quarterback, athlete quarterback? Are they bigger than that? Can they be bigger than that? Because they both have eligibility left, obviously. Drew or Mike?
Who you asking? Oh, I didn't know who you was asking.
Just throwing it out there. Yeah, I started rambling. No, I'm sorry. I started rambling. I'm sorry. Go ahead. If you want to add in there, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I think you have to look at especially at Davis Richard compared to McNair in that prism. Where else have you seen that kind of quarterback, prototypical, can hit the tight passes, run, take hits, make people miss, read the defense? He can also, when the game's on the line, be your star running back. And then he's played against some quality prototypical type running quarterbacks. You heard, I think Hagler, Randall with Southern, and you've seen him come out on top. I think if you look at him in that space, the one difference I've seen is more read option pass, reading the defense, then passing, whereas McNair was kind of more of an initial decision. I'm going to pass, I'm going to run. Still, same talent, same bases, same dominance over defense. And the one point that BJ Jones put out, we discussed it earlier this season. We talked about the SWAC all year, how dominant they were. The closest they seen that type of quarterback was twice, or would have seen. Once the second half of the Southern game, And then maybe the next closest person would have been Trayvon Conley for PV, but a poor man's version of that. They hadn't seen that Davis Richard prototypical 6'3", 6'4" frame can run option pass and hit folks in tight spaces. So that we talked about that at the very beginning of the year. That was the one kink in the armor. They hadn't seen that type of quarterback, not in the SWAC.
Great point.
I got one. I got one for you, fellas. Could we say Davis Richard is Lamar Jackson with a little more touch
And a more frame.
and a little
And
more
more
frame?
girth,
Well, Lamar
more
Jackson's
build.
got a little
He
bit
was
of.
running up the
Lamar
middle.
Jackson's got a pretty good frame. You know, but from back when he was at Louisville, he was doing stuff that we see Davis Richard doing now at Central. You know, we looking at Lamar as the Baltimore Ravens quarterback. Let's think back to Lamar when he was the Louisville quarterback. And that's who he kind of reminds
Davis
me of.
Richard.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Davis Richard ain't got them kind of jets.
Not quite.
Yeah, he got them kind of jets.
but
I think.
but the power and the ability to run and pass the ball. But I think he has a little bit more touch than Lamar Jackson did when he was at Louisville. That's just
he has
my
more touch.
humble opinion.
He has more touch and more girth. He's running up the middle.
Yes.
Lamar was hitting those corners.
Yes. Yeah, but like I say, that's just what it reminds me of. But when we talk about this quarterback battle, and everybody in the press box knew whichever team won the ball game, their quarterback was going to be the MVP. That's what you call a quarterback battle. It's going to be whoever can get the W, you know they're going to be the MVP. But I want to step away from the quarterback for a second. There were a couple other people, were it not for these quarterbacks, would have been in the MVP conversation. Kevin Coleman Jr., 7 catches, 137 yards, and a touchdown. And then the big kickoff return that he had that set up Jackson State. I'm trying to find out what was the distance on that kickoff return. That was a 38-yard kickoff return that he had right there.
Coleman
Another player. I mean, Latrell Collier, 17 carries, 98 yards, and a touchdown. And while you're playing, Travis Hunter.
Oh yeah.
2 touchdowns. You always have to throw that in conversation. With half your catches for touchdowns, you've got to throw that into the MVP conversation. So there were a lot of other players out here who did some stuff. And just the workhorse, Savion Wilkerson, even though he did not have the numbers, Savion Wilkerson was a workhorse for Jackson State when they decided to run the ball. I mean, they ran the ball 25 times. 9 of them were by Shador, which probably half of those were quarterback scrambles. I don't think there was a design run by Shador all day. But Savion Wilkerson had 15 of the 25 rushing attempts for Jackson State. So there are a lot of other cast of characters out here. One other thing, fellas, I saw somebody put in here about the ratings, and I'm really going to look at be happy to see what the ratings were for this particular game. I can almost guarantee you the ratings for the 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock hour should be astronomical. The whole game is going to be good, but I think that 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock hour, because people will probably finding out about this ball game. They tuning in, they see the competitive ball game, they see all the lead changes and everything else, and then the overtime. That 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock is going to be off the roof, off the charts, man.
Yep. Hey, Mike, I know you got a hard out, so we don't want to keep you too long here. So don't forget, Mike will be on. You'll be on tomorrow night with Doc and everybody tomorrow night, Mike.
Yes, sir.
All right, so that's tomorrow night. Dr. Cavil is inside the HBCU Sports Lab. You'll see Mike there, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central. Make sure to join in. Mike, thanks for your time, man, and we'll be tuned in with you tomorrow. Appreciate you.
Thanks for letting me join the show with the 2 Rattlers and the Jaguar. I appreciate it.
We know it's all love. We coming for you. We coming for you, Mike. You got what's
No,
ours. We coming for you.
I got my co-host
Hey,
too.
we see you
I got
for
my
home.
co-host.
We see you for homecoming, my brother.
hey, just lower the
Hey,
motel prices for homecoming. That's all I ask.
not a chance. Not a chance.
Not a
Not a
chance.
chance. Not a chance. Well, appreciate you, Mike. Hey, while we're still here, BJ, Drew, I went ahead and looked up while you were talking there for a second. The Lamar Jackson at Louisville was 6'3", 211. Davius Richard 6'3", 215. But like BJ said, I don't ever recall having written out, like I said, I haven't seen Richard all year, but I don't think he had the jets that Jackson had. And one thing that I love, which goes to speak to why they recruit heavy in Florida, Lamar Jackson from Pompano Beach, Florida, Davius Richard from
Bill
Belglade,
Glade.
Florida. Glade Central. We'll be talking about that on Wednesday's show, trying to figure out how the hell did we let Davius Richard get out of Florida. We'll be talking about that on Wednesday's O&G Strike Zone, but that's another time and place. We'll kind of look at our recruiting as recruiting season is happening right now. Drew, you were talking about Coleman's all-purpose yards. I just happened to flip over to the stats. 269 all-purpose yards, 132 on kickoff returns, 137 receiving, and a touchdown. So, yeah, imagine if he catches that I think the ball was intended for him on the last play of overtime, but imagine if he catches
He was
that.
the target.
Okay, so, yeah, so if he catches that and somehow they go for 2 and win, hey, who knows? Coleman could have easily – been in the running for that MVP spot. Let's shift over quickly to running the ball, the importance of running the ball. And I know, Drew, you said you had some defensive stats. I don't know if it was related to running or not, but
No.
I thought it was real interesting how I really thought Jackson State running game would be more than what it was. And I don't know, BJ, when you guys were, or when you were thinking about and analyzing this game, did you foresee such a lopsided, let me pull up the stats. I think the stats were 276 to 78.
68.
The disparity between, huh?
68, Brian. That's 68.
Okay, so you must be looking at the net yardage then. I'm looking at the total. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I was looking at the total then. But almost 200 plus 200 yards difference. BJ, were you shocked by that, or did you kind of see it go in the script like that?
No, I thought that Jackson State would be able to run the football, but because the Central usually ran a three-man front. What you saw defensive coordinator Courtney Court do this time is it ran a modified front. You saw the 3 defensive linemen. Sometimes it was a 4-man front. Sometimes it was a modified 4-man front where you got the stand-up outside linebacker up on the line of scrimmage and they'll blitz a guy. They changed up their defensive fronts, threw some different wrinkles at Jackson State. And if there's a weakness to Jackson State's football team, it's been the offensive line. Once you get them confused, we knew that they're not the best at pass blocking. Run blocking was their strength, but Central confused them. You saw some pre-snap shifts. You saw some slanting. You saw some different things. They kind of confused them a little bit when they couldn't just use their strength and just fire off. And Jackson State could never get that running game established at all. So shout out to defensive coordinator Courtney Court and that defensive staff from North Carolina Central.
Drew, what's your take on the running the disparity between those two teams?
I'm curious as to why Jackson State did not run the ball more. And one thing that I tend to look at is you look at rushing attempts, but I also look at the column that's 2 to the right of attempts on the stat sheet, and that's the lost yards. How many yards did the running backs lose? Because you had the gain, then you had the loss, and then you wind up with the net. Well, Jackson State rushed the ball. They've got 25 rush attempts. All right, we're going to discount Shadua because Shadua ran the ball 9 times. He gained 38, he lost 39, and had a net of -1. But Shadua was sacked twice. So we got to take 2 of those off because sack yardage goes against your rushing yards for a quarterback. So let's drop Shadua. That means they rushed the ball 16 times and did not lose a single yard.
Mm-hmm.
They rushed the ball 16 times. Everything was positive. Why not run the ball more? Now let's flip this over to Central. Central, 44 attempts. They only had 10 yards. A negative 10 yards was the net. So they 286 forward, only had 10 back for the net of 276. That's a pretty damn good day for your offensive line to run the ball 44 times and only had your running back stop for 10 yards. So I just wanted to throw that stat out. Also, I looked at the scoring, just overall scoring from Jackson State defensively, and I broke it up in quarters of the season. During the first 3 games of the season, Florida State, Grambling, Jackson State gave up 30 points. Second quarter of the season, Valley, Alabama State, Bethune, Jackson State gave up 27 points defensively. The third quarter of the season, Campbell, Southern, Texas Southern, Jackson State gave up 28 points. Let's go to the fourth quarter of the season. That would be Alabama A&M, Alcorn, Southern. Now the first 9 games, the first 3 quarters of the season, that defense was doing what they were supposed to do. And it helps when you jump out on people early and you force teams to be one-dimensional and have to pass the ball because you're up 2-3 scores on them. All right, fourth quarter of the season, they gave up 50 points. Alabama A&M, Alcorn, and Southern. So even still, 50 points in 3 games, not that bad. Could be better, but not that bad, especially when you compare it to the other one. In one game.
Half of that came in one game, right, BJ? Southern put up, 24 on them in the championship?
44 to 50 in that fourth quarter. But in one game, you gave up 41 points. Let's take that further. I'm glad you mentioned that game, Bryan. That means in the last 7 quarters that Jackson State defense was on the field, plus an overtime period, they gave up 65 points in 7 quarters in an overtime period.
So I'm gonna ask the obvious question. The only thing that I can draw to, I don't understand why that happens, BJ. I want you to give a more intelligent answer than what I'm going to say, right? Because what I'm going to say is, well, what's happened in the past 3 weeks between Southern and this Celebration Bowl?
Rumor mill, that's number one.
Could it be a lot of changes happening? A lot of people leaving? A lot of all I hear, BJ, is football coaches they hate distractions. They love consistency.
Routine.
But then at the same time, they love routine. But then at the same time, I'm being told, oh, no, we can do this because I'm focused on where I'm at. I'm where my feet, I'm focused. I can be there, I can be there. I can dress like that, I can dress like this. Everybody's good. We got mature young people that can handle all this. That's just what I hear, BJ. What now, break it down and give the more intelligent answer from the how does the defense fall apart like it did in the last 7 quarters in 1 overtime?
Well, one of the things is that Alcorn kind of showed that Alcorn set up and they ran the ball down Jackson State's throat pretty much the whole game, and people paid attention to that. With Southern, if Southern makes a quarterback change at 13-0, Jackson State doesn't make it to the Celebration Bowl. They don't. They had no answer for Southern offensively, and that defense looks different, and I'm going to keep saying it. Let's take Aubrey Miller. Aubrey Miller was the SWAC Defensive Player of the Year. To me, the player in the SWAT was Bubba Adams from Alabama State. Reason being is from his linebacker position, he's asked to do more. Aubrey Miller, as a linebacker, does one or two things for Jackson State: blitzes A gap, blitzes B gap. He's disruptive when he does it, but these last few weeks, he has not been able to blitz A gap and B gap because the offenses have been moving. So now we put him in space. Did you guys notice Aubrey Miller at all on Saturday? No, you
Yeah, we
didn't.
called this number
He
a couple of
didn't.
times, but the
Yeah,
number
but
that
nothing like usual. And a lot of his tackles were made downfield this time. He was forced to play in space, which he's not comfortable doing. He was forced to go sideline to sideline, which he's not really comfortable doing. And there was no A gap and B gap blitz in here. Now, also, what opens up is that we noticed the run game. They gave up a lot of yards on the ground against Southern, and they're getting hit through the air. One thing about Jackson State defensive backs, they are very aggressive. If you give them a double move, they'll bite on the slant. They'll bite on those hooks. Give them a double move, it's wide open. We saw Travis Hunter get beat like that in the SWAT championship game. We saw him get home, and you have a quarterback that doesn't panic and can still get the ball out. That's the weakness of playing that cover zero and blitzing like crazy. Is that if you don't get it and you have a quarterback that's cool and doesn't panic, it's game on. And luckily for Jackson State, they didn't run into a quarterback like that until the second quarter of the SWAC championship game, and then until the Celebration Bowl.
Question
Go
for you,
ahead, Drew.
BJ.
Mhm.
Does the fact that your second leading sack person and one of your top people in TFLs, that's tackle for losses, for those who don't know, Niles Gaddy does not play for undisclosed reasons. Does that affect how do I don't you know it does? How does that affect your defense? Because Jeremiah Williams played an excellent game for Jackson State. You know, he
Mhm.
did a lot of yeoman's work up front, but he didn't have Niles Gaddy up there with him. So how does that did that open up things for Jeremiah Williams, or does that really just kind of break that down?
I would say the biggest loss on that defensive line was Nitron Evans, the defensive tackle. That was the biggest loss because he's a man up front. I've been saying it all year for Jackson State defensive lines, for the defensive line. You got Evans, who's a dude, and then you got everyone else. He makes the job easier for Niles Gaddy in the defensive end because what he's able to do is he eats up so much up front, as far as in the middle, that you have to bounce it outside. And well, there goes Mr. Gaddy, and there goes those defensive ends. When you take that away, and then you take away Niles Gaddy, who could have provided some depth in this particular ball game, it did make the defensive line look different. So you're exactly right. And one thing that Niles Gaddy has that works for him, he's 6'6". Even when he's playing a defensive end position, he takes away quick slants just by his presence, just being there. So yes, that was missing those players up front was definitely key on Saturday.
And so I wanted to, just kind of just some of the things that I'm seeing from some of the comments. It, I just again want to remind people you have to celebrate the champ, and we probably see now here from Coach Trey Oliver in his third season. It took him, they say it does take 3 years to really get the team where you want it to be. I mean, he took over a team that was what, a 1 or 2 win team when he first took over. So they had a lot of work to do with the roster, the mindset, and everything else with this team. And so here he is in year 3. And one of the things that was interesting looking at this roster, there is a lot of rollover coming back next year. I mean, you've got your quarterback coming back, running back coming. I mean, I don't know. I had to go through and figure out who's not coming back But it looks like they may be coming back with at least 8 to 9 on each side of the ball. Have we looked at yet, BJ, what this Central team will look like going forward?
Oh yeah, they bring back about 93% of that roster. They didn't have a lot of seniors. This team is really sophomore and junior driven, so they are back. I mean, everything's coming back. Um, and this Central team, Trey Oliver talked about it in the press conference. He talked about how they built this through high school recruiting. They're not
Yep.
living in the portal. They're not looking for 1 to 2 year guys. They have a few kids out of the portal, but they're doing it with good old fashioned North Carolina high school players. Of course, they dip outside of the state of North Carolina. They hit Atlanta pretty hard when it comes down to recruiting, pretty much
Obviously,
into
Florida.
Florida. Yeah, in Florida, but they're doing it with high school kids. They're developing these kids, and they're not looking for a quick fix. And I like Trey Oliver's hat. He said his hat that he wore on the side of it, where he said the hat said something like it's the process over. I think it was like process over flash or something like that. The hat said I have to look at it, but they showed that on Saturday that they have a system that they're using, and it's making North Carolina Central very, very, very successful, much to the chagrin to the people over in Greensboro.
Oh yeah. Hey, look. I mean, I was just going back looking at their schedule and their season. North Carolina Central finishes the year 10-2 overall. Opened that season with the big game with the win over North Carolina A&T in Charlotte, 28-13, and they ran off probably one of their second most impressive wins was that road win at New Hampshire. I think that's when for many of us we were like, okay, you know what? We need to pay attention to Central. I think that was the game when they went up to New Hampshire, and we were like, yeah, we got to pay attention. The Campbell loss was kind of that blip on the radar right before, you know, conference play started that maybe you questioned. You kind of wondered, okay, why did they lose that game? There was a lot of things, and I know Joshua did a great job of breaking down why they lost that game. That was some good info um, back when that occurred. And then, of course, they ended up losing by 2 to South Carolina State. But as the MEAC does every year, it crumbles. Like cheap paper, and then the true champion always comes out because everybody underneath does what they do, and they just fold up like a origami. But anyway, props to North Carolina Central. The way to look, they're the 2022 Black College National Champions. They will be the preseason #1 team. And hey, look, it's how they built their team. Look, I have no issues with how Jackson State built their team and how Central built their teams. But you will say when all things are equal and there's stability matters. And that's why remember, Drew, I kept saying, I don't care how many points you throw it out there on the board. You can't tell me after all the years I've been watching football that the team that's more stable going into a big game like this is the team that's gonna get rolled. I've maybe seen it one time, but usually, you know what? You know what this reminds me of? Think about that time Ohio State played the University of Miami, and Ohio State stole. Well, the officials stole a game from Miami, but nobody thought that Ohio State team would beat the greatest football team.
Was that the Maurice
That
Claret team?
No,
That's
actually,
the
you
one
know
you're
what?
talking
It
about?
may have been. Was that the team, or was it the other time Ohio
Yeah,
State beat Miami? I can't.
that's the Maurice Claret team. Maurice
Okay.
Claret.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a team that nobody gave. They didn't think that they could beat Miami. Miami had all these future draft picks and all these blah blah blah. And yet you can say what you want about the controversial ending of that game, but Ohio State punched him in the mouth. And that's what I felt like we saw. we saw a North Carolina Central team punch Jackson State in the mouth. You can call it.
But unlike last year, Jackson State didn't fold when they got punched in the
Oh, they
mouth
punched back.
like they
They
did.
punched
Like,
back.
they
Yes,
actually
they
sat there
punched back.
and fought back. The problem was, that was George Foreman trying to hit Roy Jones, and sooner or later Roy Jones wore down.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Well said.
Hey, Bryan, before we get out of here,
Yeah.
I got one question before we get out of here. Is it too early for our way too early predictions on who's going to win each conference and wind up back here?
Ooh. I don't know. You know what? Since tomorrow is Tuesday, how about this instead? Since tomorrow is Tuesday, how about a way too early from BJ Jones, a way too early preseason top 5 going into next year? How about that?
Top 5 Tuesday.
Top 5 Tuesday is coming up in less than way too early. 2023. Way too early. 2023 preseason top 5.
Man, it's kind of hard to do that with the portal. Oh man, you could be like Jackson State and have 34 of them in there, man, and try to figure out what's going on. But I think if you had to do a top 5 right now, I think Central's number 1, no doubt. Number 2, I got to go with probably FAMU. Will probably be there. 3 through 5 is where there's going to be a whole lot of debate and a whole lot of I don't know. That's when you start getting into Southern and Alcorn, and Alabama
I got
State.
a 3 for you, BJ. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say Alabama State was going to be who I would say right now. I would put at number 3.
Yeah, but they're having some portal
They have some portal stuff too.
Departures as well. So it's hard to say with this transfer portal. Yeah, it's hard to say with this transfer portal.
You know what's interesting?
I'll put it to you like this, Bryan. I'll pick anybody in the SWAC West but UAPB. You can't go wrong by picking anybody but UAPB right now. And depending on who UAPB gets for a coach, you might be there because you expect Grambling to be much improved. Grambling's a quarterback away. Alcorn's a quarterback away. Preview's in there. If Body stays at Texas Southern, they've got the makings of a good team. Southern's a quarterback away. So, all those teams in the West, whoever gets the best quarterback, be it portal or JUCO, that's who you're gonna pick to win the West.
Yeah.
Yeah, stability will be what I'll be looking forward to seeing. The teams that have, and you mentioned 1 and 2, I mean, those are 2 teams that presumably will have returning quarterbacks coming back into the spring. Of course, like we assume Richard will be back. He's given every indication he will be. You assume Florida A&M will start with a returning quarterback. And then you'll just kind of go down the line and say, who has returning quarterbacks coming back? I think that's where you have to start. And then you got to look at your coaches and coaching staffs and kind of go from there. But yeah, it is really. I think this one little nugget, and I'll end with this, guys. Of the 21 programs in FCS football, only 7 finished the year with a winning record, and winning means 6 wins or more in an 11-game season. That is extremely low. It feels that's only 1/3 of HBCU Division I teams finished with a winning record. That's powerful if you really think about that for a second. And obviously we had 2 with 10 wins or more. But I tell you that's going to be interesting to see how teams respond to that going forward. All right,
that's
BJ,
why we only do top 5. That's why we only do top 5 at the BCSN.
That's why we do top 5.
That stat you just said.
Exactly. BJ, final
that's
thoughts
why
on the
BJ only
celebration.
does the top 5.
Exactly. It's the best way to go.
Where did the season go, man? I feel like, man, hey, where did the season go? And I challenge anyone out there that's watching. The Celebration Bowl has become the premier HBCU event of the year. we talked about it, man. I talked to Mr. Grant this morning and just talked about, man, the Celebration Bowl, just to see the growth of it, man. If you have not made it, make it your business to get to Atlanta Celebration Bowl weekend. Take it all in from Thursday to Saturday. Man, you can just spend time at the Omni, man, and it's just amazing. It's a who's who of black college football, black college athletics. It is amazing, and I am so thankful and blessed to be a part of it with the my BCSN family, man, and man, just everybody, man. Just this Celebration Bowl has been amazing, and we had a game for the ages. In my opinion, the Celebration Bowl to me has been the best bowl game of the bowl season so far. The attendance has been amazing, and man, the football god smiled on us with this one, fella.
Amen. Amen to that. Drew, what do you
Saw
got?
Dr. Cavil try to pop in for a moment, so I don't know if Roy's going to try to get him on. But my big thing is, there's been a lot of talk out here about changing the model. Should we expand and go to 4? Should we go with the best 2 teams? Yada 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 yada. Here's my take on it. What we have on the FCS level, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yes, it would be nice to see a possible A&T, Tennessee State, and Hampton try to get into this mix. But they chose not to participate in our traditional conferences. No disrespect to them, but that's their decision. The expansion that I would love to see is if we can add Friday night SIAC, CIAA, and I don't know if you want to. Obviously, we've got to come up with something besides the Celebration Bowl. Same venue, same everything else. Let's make it a Friday, Saturday, where you got Division II on Friday, FCS on Saturday. That's what I would love to see. You got the Celebration Bowl. That's called the Exceptional Bowl. I don't care what you name it, but I would love to see that be what our ultimate goal is. If we want to get 4 teams, let's get the other 2 teams be the CIAA and the SIAC.
Okay. Before I sit over to Dr. Cavil to close this out, I will just say I am one of those newbies. This was my first year attending the Celebration Bowl, right? I mean, other obligations with at school and basketball and coaching has always kind of kept me occupied where I never could make it. And I am so disappointed that I never made it, but I am so thankful I did this year, and I will never miss again. As long as this game is happening, I'm already scheduling off time wherever I am. I'm already scheduling time off so that I can be there to do more and see more because it was outstanding. As we talked about, it was like the Super Bowl. I've never been to a Super Bowl, but I've been to like when the Super Bowl comes to your city, what that experience is like. I did that in Indianapolis, and this was a little colder weather, but this is what that felt like. It really felt like that atmosphere and excitement of being in Atlanta. And congrats to John Grant and everyone with the Celebration Bowl. Uh, North Carolina Central, Jackson State fans, you guys did a great job representing, but also HBCU Nation. If you love HBCU football, whether it be SWAC, MEAC, CIAA, SIC, whatever it is, you have to get to this game. You have to be a part of this pageantry, and this is real. This is real. It's only going to get bigger. It's only going to get better, and it really thank you to the teams and the coaches for giving us such a great game. And this might be the game that, like you said, we talk about what it's going to take to really blow it off. And really make this thing really expand where they really start selling into the upper deck. This might be the game that did it because I'm looking forward to going back and watching this a few times on TV. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Doc, and kind of close us out with your thoughts about the Celebration Bowl and everything that went around it and so on and so forth.
I just wanted to say thank you all for the co-hosting the show. And as Mike got in here and did and represented inside the HBCU Sports Lab, BJ Jones, as he joins us and does his unique analysis from a football analyst perspective, particular focus on HBCUs, does a wonderful job. So just want to say great job on what you provided with the viewers, and we look forward to following up tomorrow and giving even some more insight as we officially name our um, HBCU champion during the show tomorrow. Obviously, there's little doubt in terms of who that will be, but we'll go through the
Spoiler
process
alert.
and acknowledge, right? Acknowledge
Anticlimactic.
what that's about in so many different ways. But I like the way you ended it right there, and I think I'll just follow up with that and just saying that it was a tremendous event. I've been quoting and going around there as I heard some people talk about B.J. Jones, particularly how tremendous was to see so many different HBCU fans supporting it. So I put it like this: it's becoming the mecca of HBCU sports fans as the place to go, understanding the sporting HBCU diaspora. So it's the destination. And so I come in Wednesday to kind of relax a little bit because you got to really get into some work. And so it gives me a little time to enjoy some things, even though, people don't necessarily get in there Thursday, certainly on Friday. But we ramp up on Friday, Saturday with our coverage. And we'll be doing more. So stick with us, the Black College Sports Networks. We found some pieces to the puzzle where we'll be working to be able to provide you uh, full day coverage, if not almost around the clock. So we look forward to do that as we team up with each other and put a schedule together that the fans can be proud of. With that, I also think it was just great in terms of an epic game. You all broke it down in so many different ways, but just the ebbs and flows of a championship game. A game that goes down to the last play is amazing. And when I say last play, we can talk about last play of the uh, game as we thought it was in terms of fourth quarter. And then we find out because of the catch and the great throw that we need extra time of what we call in the sport of football overtime. And literally in overtime, it goes down to the last play. And so uh, when you talk about the two teams, and we tried to tell everybody, 2 weeks ago, a lot of the talk was more about Coach Prime, understandably so, in terms of the decision he made. But if you followed us in terms of Black College Sports Network inside the HBCU Sports Lab, we broke down the week leading up to it, starting with that Sunday before the game after the thing. We talked about the coaches. We gave you head coach breakdown. We told you about the offensive coordinators. We told you about the defensive coordinators. We broke down special teams. We went inside and talked about uh, the offensive and defensive players for both teams. We told you why you should be excited about the quarterback play, that you had top five quarterback, traditional pocket passer, if you would, but also could elude rushes and make plays down the field with his legs and most certainly with his arm as he continued to make sure he looked downfield to keep plays open. And we told you about the best dual threat quarterback in HBCUs that happens to play for North Carolina Central. We told you how big he was, how strong he was, how accurate he was, and how timely he would be in this matchup. So we set you up for everything that you end up seeing. We told you everything to look at. We told you about the defensive players of the game and how they would live up to the play, from a defensive back to a linebacker. Obviously, we even gave you some concerns about where both teams could be beat, and we saw it play out in terms of what that looks like. And so I was just happy that we went inside the numbers and gave you a chance for your expectations of what could be an incredible game, and it ultimately was. And so that's what we tend to do. And then as we also looked at the Battle of the Bands in terms of how this was a top five Battle of the Bands and what that would look like in terms of the energy that would be brought forth there. And so finally, we even took it back a little bit to basketball. And I had a chance to add on the fact that give you extra time as you see me bleeding into the day, has got up out of Atlanta, took a plane ride to Las Vegas to be able to cover the second day of the HBCU um, basketball game, if you would, there, presented by Chris Paul. And it was fascinating. And all those games were close. We had an overtime game in the basketball matchups. So it just lets you know the culture and the power. I mean, those games were 2-point games late in those games going down. Teams may have stretched it out and kind of won by a little more comfortable margin. But again, even one of those games went down the stretch on the first day to overtime, and last two games on Saturday went down. Fans were in there deep. Texas Southern fans flew in from Houston and represented really significantly. A&T was in the house. You had folks coming up from LA, the folks that live around Las Vegas. People came up from Arizona. And so even when you have almost 50,000 fans inside the stadium, millions watching on television, thousands in the city, you have significant fan following halfway across the country to watch the sport of basketball. So sports for HBCUs are in a really good place, and we need to make sure that we do our part, fans in terms of following, celebrating, supporting, and then us as the media, providing a full-fledged gamut of telling the story like nobody else can tell it. What better place to do that than right here on Black College Sports Network with BCSN, with Bryan and AD on the Sports Wrap, with Mike Washington that you heard from earlier, as well as Charles Bishop, who will be joining us tomorrow as we do Tuesday and Thursdays on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Orange and Green, the O&G Strike Zone, as you do, following FAMU and giving people a glimpse like no other, and how to ask questions of your administration without being ugly, but understanding the depth knowledge of what that looks like. How do you appropriately do that? With with Carlos Brown on Saturday, making sure that he gives you coverage of Southern University and a little bit more about HBCUs in Louisiana, dipping in the Grambling, giving you SWAC, and obviously MEAC coverage, and just even giving you some professional framework, bringing in a basketball guru, coach, and legend onto the show. It's hard to get this type of energy and framework. Game time that gave you insight right there live in terms of what we do many hours of the day. So we just ask for the continued support. We're going to find a way to give you some information that you can't get anywhere else. So make sure you tell and spread the love. Download that MyJBN, My BCSN app so we can continue to give you coverage that you can't quite get anywhere else. So just want to say thanks for the fans supporting us, and we'll be ready to give you some more information. We're talking about closing up with the top five and top five Tuesday free early. Yep, we're going to give you some of that, but we also going to give you probably the debut of the top five for the major division in basketball. Let you know what that looks like as we start to turn the curve and get on to the hardwood and give you some thought process as you'll be surprised before the end of New Year's as we get into the year. It's going to time to get into conference play where it's really going to get interested for the MEAC and SWAC, as well as looking at the CIAA, SIEC. And when we get in basketball, we get to bring in Gulf Coast Athletic Conference at the NAIA level that are playing some good basketball already as they've started some conference play. So let's check it out. Let's keep up the good work. And we're just getting started in terms of the rest of this academic year.
Well said, Doc. We appreciate you. Couldn't have said any of that better. This holiday season, you can help be a part of what we have going on here with the Black College Sports Network and our parent company, Jericho Broadcast Networks, by supporting us doing our with our fundraiser right now. I know if our producers,
hey Bryan,
we can
Bryan,
talk about that. Yes.
right? I'm sorry. I'm going to jump in right now. We're gonna run
Okay,
that
so you're actually
graphic.
on the air. I didn't know you were on the air. I thought you
Yeah.
were talking in my ear.
Nope.
Okay, I love it.
So we're gonna run
I
this
love it.
graphic. Drew, I'm gonna have you jump
Yeah.
off because they need to talk to you at our meeting, and then we're
Okay.
gonna let Bryan do this.
All right. Before I jump off, can you play the holiday video for him also, Roy?
Okay.
As we go out.
Trying to do too much, y'all. All right,
All right,
let's
y'all.
we'll close it out here by
That,
again just letting people know about the Jericho Broadcast Network's network fundraiser going into 2023. myjbn.com/grow. Of course, Black College Sports Network is just one part of the overall vision of Jericho Broadcast Networks, and so you guys have an opportunity to be a part of what we have happening, and we're looking forward to a great 2023. So every gift is appreciated. A cup of coffee, a whatever you want to donate and give. Go download the Jericho Broadcast Networks app on the Google Play and Apple App Store. Just search MyJBN, my BCSN is where you can find it. Again, go to myjbn.com/grow. Uh, when you see the ad, don't just like it. Don't just give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and donate. We'd appreciate any contribution that you'd like to make to help us continue doing what we're doing. All right, that's going to do it. Don't forget, tomorrow night, Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dot, Mike, Charles, we'll all be in the building recapping the game, giving you the national championship breakdown, top five, and then as Doc just said, looking ahead to the basketball season. It's here, and so it's time to start kind of pivoting, so to speak, no pun intended, towards basketball. So it's been a great college football season. Thanks again, Mike Washington and BJ Jones, and his daughter for joining us, and we appreciate you guys for consuming all of our content. I know I saw some people said, "Where were we in the post game?" We were gassed. I'm not even gonna lie to you. We were gassed. We next year we promise to do better job with the post game. I know there are people like, "Oh man, I wanted to see a post game. Where was the next year we'll be more on point with the post game." But thank you for still coming in and joining us and hearing from us. So that's going to do it for our producer Roy. My name is Bryan Fulford. You guys be safe. Happy holidays. Have a Merry Christmas. And peace out.